Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March meeting of the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you like to lead that, Commissioner Bisaccia?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Director Gould, do you want to call roll call? Do you want to?
Yes, I do, and I'll have to read everybody's names. Commissioner Akins. Here. Commissioner Bisaccia.
Here.
Chair McCready.
Here.
Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Boggs.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any site visits or ex parte contacts they need to disclose before we start?
Yes, I went up in preparation for a meeting with the council. I went up and measured the wall at 1001 Foothill Road. So that was a site visit, just to measure the wall.
Thank you.
Chair, can I acknowledge one other thing?
Commissioner Akins?
I just spent an hour or so this afternoon, so I would like to acknowledge that Jack Fay, former city attorney, former mayor, former city councilman, and the attorney for the that was there for the founding of AARP, will celebrate his 90th birthday on Sunday. So happy birthday to Jack Fay.
Absolutely.
And thank you for all you've contributed to the city of Ojai.
Absolutely. Thank you. So our first item is, we don't have minutes tonight, do we, Director Gould? So we'll,
Would you ask your question again? I apologize.
so we didn't include in our packet our minutes from February, I'm sorry.
That's correct.
So-
The planning and building tech was out on a family emergency, so the minutes were not completed in time for your
So we'll
packet.
not review those at this time.
You'll
Thank
see
you.
those in the next packet.
Thank you. So that brings us to our informational item, Twice Sold Tales Landmarking and Review of Proposed Pergola Design. Do you have a report for us on the joint meeting?
I do not.
Commissioner Walker?
Oh, yes. Well, I was at the council meeting in which the landmark of the building was in question. The applicants had withdrawn. Excuse me. The applicants had withdrawn their request for landmarking, I think more because things had gotten complicated for them and they felt like they couldn't move ahead in a reasonable manner. So the council appointed a committee. I was on that committee, and Director Gould and our attorney and Mr. Griffin, Mr. Lambert, and a couple of others, and we worked out this agreement that would allow the council to landmark the building, which they did at their meeting on Tuesday night. And it was conditional upon them bringing, because you may recall, one of the things that came up when we recommended the landmarking was that they come back with their final design for the pergola. And that got wrapped up in language of a work permit, which was going to lead to a lot of complicated work for them. So they're here tonight to show us their design for the pergola, and we will receive that. And then once they put in their, as I understand it, once they put in their building permit request, the landmark will become effective.
Once the permits have been issued.
Once the permits have been
Right.
issued, it will become effective. So I think it's a win-win situation. The library, for the Friends of the Library, get to move forward with their project, and the facade of the building and the pergola out front will be landmarked. So we're very happy about that.
Mr. Chair, if I could speak a little more on the...
Please. Mr. Summers?
Thank you, Commissioner Walker, for laying out the terms of the deal. And the
as accomplished and is approved by the council on Tuesday, it accomplishes the goals that were laid out by the council. The building is landmarked. The HPC, as you're doing tonight, will be able to review the design of the pillars for the pergola, which I understand was the main concern with the previous iteration of this, when it went through the HPC before. And the applicant is able to move forward with the project in a timely and efficient manner, which was another concern that council had brought. And it accomplishes the goals laid out to ensure that the applicant's thwarted expectations are met at the same time, ensuring that both the council and the commission maintain their respective roles in the process, and that this commission's particular expertise in historic issues is put to use by reviewing the pillars, and that then the project goes forward. And as Commissioner Walker noted, if the landmarking was made effective as one of two possible dates, the first being the day after building permits are issued for the proposed project, the second being October 1st, 2015. And what that means is that if they pull building permits as they intend to on the current approved design as approved by the Planning Commission in mid-February, then that process will not involve a work permit because the landmark is not yet effective. However, if they change the design or if they wait too long, then they will need to come through the process, get a modify their design review permit, their CUP as needed, and come for a full work permit. So the only thing that is approved that would go through without a full work permit is what has already been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and blessed by the council in the course of approving this, the landmarking with this kicked out effective date. And if the applicant waits too long, if they sit on their rights, they wait past October 1st to pull a building permit, then the HPC would review a full work permit. So it builds in an incentive to have the applicant move their project along. And additionally, anything later, so once either of those two dates has kicked in, then, and it's the first one, not the latter, the first one, then any future renovation to the project, any future renovation of the property, such as if the county ends up acquiring it for the library directly, anything they want to do would then have to come, would be landmarked fully, and would have to come before the commission for a work permit. And the landmark designation is focused on the front facade, the pergola, and the roof line, which together create the historical aspect of this property and the landmark aspects of the property. Further, once the landmark designation is effective, again, either of those two effective dates, any and all signage would be reviewed by the HPC in accordance with your typical review processes for signage on historic sites, noting to the applicant that signs that are currently exempt would remain exempt, which are your small window signs, like a temporary sale sign, the small ones, below a certain percentage of the window that I forget exactly. 20%, thank you. 20% of the window size. And then, of course, any proposed demolition of the landmark would require a full review and a full review by this commission and by the council. And no one's proposing demolition, so I don't think that's anywhere in the cards. So that's the element of the approach that was struck, and that I think is a good approach because it accomplishes the goals that were set out by this commission, by council, by the applicant. And hence, and the council approved this, hence we're here tonight for your review of the pillars.
And could I just add that what the Planning Commission approved was the same design and everything that we approved when we recommended it to the council that it be made a landmark. So there weren't any changes in the project. The only item that was outstanding was just that they would bring back a little closer look at what the pergola would look like and show that to us tonight.
So that answers what was going to be my question. This flows from our December 11th, I think, vote for recommendation for landmarking.
Yes, the project, as Commissioner Walker stated, it's the same as was before you on December 12th.
Okay, thank you. I note that the architect for the project is here to answer questions. Are there any questions from commissioners on the project as it stands, or should we move directly to the... Did you bring materials to show the columns tonight?
I think what you have
It's in the booklet.
It's in the packet.
Okay. So with that, I'll open it up to questions for commissioners. Commissioner Hill?
Yes, I had one question. You spoke of the signage, and you spoke of the temporary open and close type of signs. As I look at the pictures of what the historical pergola looked like as opposed to the proposed pergola, I notice signs that are painted on the windows. Do you plan any other type of wooden signage like what you would find in the arcade?
Please, please step forward and identify yourself.
You get
Thank you.
Instead of Josh. Because I had that was some of the questions that I, representing the board, had for you. The building, as it's used now, is a used bookstore. Provides the revenue to do the projects and things with the library.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, John Lambert, currently president of the Library Friends Group, 11 Taormina Lane here in Ojai.
Thank you.
My apologies, sir. It's a retail store, so we have the need for minimal signs on a constant basis in the front. I mean, I think virtually all of you have been either past it or in it at one time or another, so you know what the operation is. We have, at this point in time, identified the building by lettering across the two front windows. One side, if I remember correctly, says Ojai Library Friends and Foundation, and the other side. This is on the glass right now. Now, we have not, to be perfectly honest, talked about what's coming next. I think most of us just assume we're going to replicate what we have right now. But the wording, as we've come to understand in the agreement, leaves us with some questions about what is considered acceptable by the Historic Preservation Committee and what is not in terms of representing signs. Ms. Bowman doesn't have any large signs. The whatever the Marché sandwich shop, they don't have a large sign. The theater has its marquee. The Jester did not have a large sign. We were not planning on putting out anything. Right now, we do have a round sign that sits on a pedestal outside of the building that we put up. But we put that there simply by turning it around because the other says Van Dyke Travel Agency. And that had been there for quite a while. So we're a little confused about where we can head with this. And we'd like to get some guidelines from you so we don't have to just keep coming back to the meetings on a constant basis.
The reason I asked that is that in the historical picture that you see on attachment B of the old land office, there is a wooden sign that says Arbalot on it. Were you planning on doing anything like that? As far, in my opinion, that's fine.
We hadn't even.
Okay.
I hadn't seen this until Mr. Walker showed it to me a couple of weeks ago. That's the first time I had actually seen this picture. So.
Anyway, it was just, I listened to Mr. Summers' description of what happened and what is going to happen within this time period. And the topic was that in the future, signage would come before this commission for approval. And I was just wondering as to what plans you had down the pike or not.
Well, as I'll reiterate, though we didn't discuss
Okay,
it.
thank you.
If you look at the picture directly above it,
Yes.
and the part right by facing the closest to us is where the current sign is sitting on a pedestal.
Right.
And my envisioning of this whole thing was it was going to stay there. But as I say, we have not talked about it at all.
Commissioner Walker?
Well, I just wanted to point out that the city has their own sign ordinance that is the theme area. It's got a lot of requirements that's beyond just what we have. So in some ways, we could almost be helped to be more flexible, I would think, because it might be that the theme area requirements would require a sign on the building, and you might not want it on the building. So I think that can go both ways as far as this commission. I think our main interest is just that it looks compatible with the era and the time. But the city sign ordinance is probably a lot more stringent than just what the historic preservation.
That's correct.
So thank you, that's
And-
very helpful.
You know, once the Friends of the Library Foundation has a chance to think through what kind of signs they're looking for, then we'll sit down with them and look at what they want, how that fits with the code, both the historic aspects and the theme requirements and the other quite specific requirements of the sign code, and kind of, that'll be run through a full analysis and then brought back depending on what kind of sign they're going for as to what the review process is.
Because I was actually surprised to find out when the museum brought their sign request in that these pole signs are not legal, and yet the museum has a couple, and there's one on the there's a couple on the library.
And pole signs are not allowed per the city's
But
municipal
would
code,
that be
that's correct.
something that the commission could say, well, we'd rather have it on a pole than have it attached to the building? So we would argue for some flexibility with that. Would that be part of what?
In that case, the applicant would need to apply for a variance, and if the findings could be made to grant the variance, then that's something that the commission could choose to move forward with.
Well, I think we should say that it's our expectation that you will want signage on the project, and you'll come before us with that design.
I have a few questions.
Commissioner Basaccia?
Is it appropriate for me to ask a few questions about the structure that I'm curious about? That's okay. You're the architect's representative, is that right?
The structure, excuse me, can I interrupt you for just a moment, Commissioner Chair? If I could, the structure of the pillars and the pergola only, correct? Because the rest of the project is
Yeah.
not up for discussion tonight.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I was just curious about some things, and I missed a couple meetings, so I want to make sure I'm not, discussing or asking about something that's already been noodled to death. But the pillars, how do you actually ascertain the size of those and kind of the shape?
Okay. First of all, identify myself.
Thank you.
As Josh Griffin, I work for Cornerstone Architects, and I represent the board in this project. For the pillars, we actually took these historic photos, stuck them in our AutoCAD program, and traced over them.
Oh, cool.
Scale as close as possible to what was actually there.
Oh, great.
And just so you know, we did have to modify the beam edge a little bit because when it was first built, it did not have neighboring parcels that were developed. And now the neighboring corner, if you look to the left of that proposed pergola picture, is in the way of where the existing beam would have been. So we had to shorten the overhang a little bit on the main carrying beam of the pergola.
Okay.
But we're keeping the same cut and the same at the ends to try to match as close as possible.
Okay. That's great. Just as an aside, the house I live in that I own is a 1924 Spanish-style house or mission-style, and it has large pillars on the front porch. It's kind of a unique detail.
Yeah.
Another question I have, looking at the historic photos, especially in attachment B, where you're kind of looking down or up, I guess,
Yes.
Ojai Avenue. It's interesting to me how the I don't know what you call those. It seemed like they were called vigas in
Yeah.
here. Is that the proper term?
Yeah, or
Okay.
round beams.
Yeah, round beams, round sort of like rafter type things. It's interesting how, if you notice, they're kind of all different in a way, and the ends are different. And are
Yeah.
you taking that into
Well,
consideration?
we considered actually, doing that, but
Uh-huh.
we kind of felt that with the pergola in front of Libby Park
Yeah.
down the street, it's more of this regular look that we are proposing.
So you're
And
you're
we're
kind of matching that.
Kind of matching that, but trying to keep as much of the historical, the cuts and that
The
type
feel.
of thing. We also have a new tree right in front of our property that we want to, or not new to the,
Uh-huh.
since the historical picture was taken, which would interfere with any longer beams going into the way of that tree. So
Okay.
we got as close as possible, but within current constraints, basically.
Is there any idea, like, it appears in this photo that there was some kind of like plant growth on it? Is that being looked at
we,
at all?
we weren't thinking of that just
Soften it?
because of maintenance. Once you
Okay.
have plants growing up on those beams and you have to paint them again, it becomes a bit of a pain.
Are they going to be painted?
They will be painted, yeah, a dark brown. I think I indicated that. in
Is that
pictures.
like the pergola?
Yeah, basically the same as a pergola at Libby or right outside here.
Okay, so it's kind of
it's trying to fit in.
matching it in
Yeah,
a
it's trying to fit
sense.
into both historical and the context of the surrounding area.
My last question, at least I think it's my last one, is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but when the pergola was first built, I believe they used the wrong materials and they rotted in short order and they were replaced. Are you taking that into consideration?
We are, yeah. We're still weighing the options of going with actual wood or synthetic product like they're now using at the pergola. Regardless of the product, it'll look the same once it's done.
Is the pergola a synthetic material?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the exact material is, but it seems to be.
That compacted wood.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, if you look closely, you can actually with a good eye, you can actually see that it's not real wood. It's
I'll check that out. One last question for somebody. When was this structure, when was it dismantled, the old one? Which
the old
year?
pergola. I
Anybody
don't
know?
know.
Sometime after whatever date those cars are.
Okay, yeah, whenever that is. They still had those cars around when I was a
That's
teenager.
a 40.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate this facade being restored. I think that's really cool.
So do we. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a fun project.
All right, thanks for answering those questions.
Thank you. And so we'll look forward to hearing your signage proposals. Thanks so much.
Mr. Chair, one more point on the signage thing that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of, is that part of the council's approval of the arrangement is that the signage review by the HPC would, similarly to the work permit review, be effective upon the landmark designation, not previously. But certainly, any signage that they apply for, and it sounds like they haven't identified what kind of signage they want, so it may well be after the landmarking is effective. But if they apply before, then that would be reviewed as required by the code, but not with the additional review by the HPC, because that provision of the code only kicks in on a landmark property. But of course, in that process, whichever review body it goes to, depending on the type of sign, would certainly take into account the historic nature of the property. And again, we aren't sure when a signage application will come in, and nor are we sure at all, as you've heard, as to what kind of size and so forth. But I just wanted to make sure everybody got that nuance.
And maybe one of the commissioners can answer this question. How do we usually determine the location of our landmark plaque? Do we usually determine the location on the building, or is that worked out with the applicant, or?
I think it's a combination of both. Usually it comes to the commission for a recommendation of where the plaque should go, and if it clearly doesn't fit in with something that the applicant is looking, with the location that the applicant is looking to fit, then maybe one representative of the commission can work with the applicant to come up with a mutually agreeable place.
Thank you.
That-
Does that sound good to you?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Just to make a comment on that, what generally happens is that the chair appoints somebody to be a liaison between the property owner and our commission to go out and seek a place to place the plaque. That's generally worked. We had one situation where the owner of the building, after they were identified and after they get a Mills Act, they refused to put the plaque up. And to this day, it still does not identify the building. So we'd like to see the plaque placed.
I think they would.
Okay, I can assure you that one, that's not a problem.
Right.
And the other is, I'd like to assure you that you're not going to see any question in terms of us presenting a concept of signage, probably until it's close to done. So we can see it and see how it fits in. So I think it's rather a moot question at this point.
Thank you.
Did you want to
So,
vote by our?
we don't-
Since this isn't a formal work permit, there's no need for formal vote. It's just a review and discussion, as we've done.
Item 2, planner and commissioner training by the State Office of Historic Preservation on April 9th. I'd like to point out that is the same day as our usual meeting, so is that a hard and, that is a hard and fast date?
That is a hard and fast set date because the Office of Historic Preservation set that date. We did not set that date.
Thank you. So would you like to fill us in on some of the details of that?
Okay.
Director,
Chair,
Director Gould?
You know, since there's some conversation back there, I'm wondering if either we can ask them to step out if they're not discussing something that's on the agenda, or if they have something that's
Okay.
relevant to the agenda, maybe they can speak to the public.
It may be
Pardon
the
me?
case that she sought to speak on item 1, but didn't put a card in time. That
Okay,
might be worth it.
Pardon me,
identifying.
Mr. Griffin?
Lambert.
Josh?
Lambert.
Can we ask you to take your conversation outside? Thanks a lot. We want to hear what you're saying otherwise.
That's right.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Director Gould.
Anyway, no, that date is set, unfortunately. So one of the items, and I didn't actually pick up on that, one of the items I guess your commission needs to decide on tonight is if you want to have a special meeting in April, canceling or having it on the same day. That's really up to the commissions to decide. And thank you for bringing that to my attention because I missed that.
I think we should discuss it. It would be a long day for all HPC.
Chairman McCready.
Commissioner Boggs?
Definitely, we don't want them both on the same day. One option would be that we just cancel our April meeting of our commission like they've done so many years in the past, and just not have an April meeting and count this as our meeting.
Commissioner Walker?
I just think we have so much work that have backed up that I would prefer to see that we have a meeting, but that we have it maybe the following week, and then one of the items could be to kind of debrief a little bit about what we learned, but then go into our other business. So would it be okay if we did it just the following Thursday?
The city attorney's going to look at the calendar since I failed to bring mine.
I think the potential conflict is the Arts Commission.
There may be, and the other thing is the planning commission meets on the 15th.
The 15th, historic preservation on the 9th.
Right, so they're proposing to,
Council's here and here.
they're proposing to meet on the 16th. Oh, are you going to be here?
I have a planning commission meeting that night, regular commission meeting that night.
Okay. The city attorney would not be available on that date, and at the city manager's direction, the city attorney needs to sit for these meetings now.
Well, we could conduct a meeting without the city attorney. We have for years.
That's a decision that the city manager has made.
City manager would
with
need
the-
to make, yeah.
That would be up to the city manager as to whether or not my attendance is required. It would also, my recommendation will be based on what is on the agenda. If the agenda has a public hearing item or has a work permit being approved, I would recommend that I be present to ensure that that is done in a legally defensible manner. If the agenda item did not include something that's likely to end up in litigation, then it would be fine to meet as you have. And I'm not sure yet what will be on that agenda.
How about the week prior? That would be April 2nd?
April 2nd, I also have a meeting. I could do the 4th Thursday, the 23rd. My regular planning commission meetings for another client are the 1st and 3rd Thursday. Meeting is the regular, the 2nd Thursday. 4th Thursday is open, for me at least, which would be the 23rd.
That'd be all right with me.
Is that an agreeable date with the commission?
What's the date on that?
April
2-3.
23rd. Is there a meeting here that night?
And there's no conflict with the Arts Commission?
That would be the next question.
We're checking, just a minute.
Because I know they're Thursdays. And we like them, but
We wouldn't want to displace any of the other commissions. It's
No.
always a challenge. I'm just pulling up the Ojai calendar.
If you can give us a minute here.
Chair McCready, Chairman Creedy.
Commissioner Akins?
Just a couple of things. I am going to be out of town with family on vacation, getting ready for, on the 9th that week. So I've been confused back and forth on whether there was training available online. I keep seeing that, but I'm not sure if there.
At this point, I don't believe that that particular workshop will be available online on a real-time basis, but I will find out and send a memo to the commission letting you know if online training is available. And Mr. Summers just verified that April 23rd, there are no other commission meetings. So if that's a date that's mutually agreeable to all of the commissioners, then we can certainly schedule a special meeting for that night.
And my source for that is the city's online calendar, which I'm relying on, but
So
could
we're
well be
hoping
wrong.
that that's correct.
We're hoping that's correct.
Commissioner Basaccia?
What are the hours of that training?
They're 9 a.m. to 3
9 to
p.m. It's a 6-hour deal.
And
I'm assuming there's a break for lunch.
I would
There
hope.
is a break for lunch, yes.
And in response to Commissioner Akins, I believe, in response to your question, I believe that the State Historic Preservation Office does have a fair amount of online training materials available on their website. I'm not sure if they have this particular workshop or this particular presenter, but I know they have a fair amount of useful information.
Okay, so there's two items of training that, again, I've seen emails going back and forth and have totally confused me. So the one that's from 9 to 3, which is the state that's coming in, is kind of a training on being historic preservation commissioners.
Right,
And it's optional.
It's optional, but we strongly encourage all the commissioners, not only your commission, but the planning commissioners and staff to attend as well, because we feel that there's going to be a lot of very good information that's presented, and, your commission, makes some very important decisions for the city, and so we would want to provide you with as much training as we can, and this is one opportunity for us to do so with the resources from the state.
Will the council attend it too?
Council has been invited to attend.
Okay, so I understand that. I, again, would love to be here, but we're vacationing with my daughter and her family and on the way to her husband's dad's wedding in San Diego, so it's kind of a hard thing to change.
No, of course.
But otherwise, yes, I would love to be here, and I think I signed up for it before I realized we were going out of town. So then there is a second training, which is a mandatory training that has online availability to it. And I'm unsure when that training's going to take place.
on ethics.
Yeah.
That's the ethics that's the,
And when is that proposed to take place?
I think it was the 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct, but I would have to verify that.
Which, the April 19th?
I believe it's March.
It's March.
I think Scott is doing that.
okay.
He talked about it.
Or is it
It's March 19th.
March 19th?
March 19th.
March 19th, that's correct.
And that one is the AB 1234 training that's required by the state every 2 years for commissioners and council members. It focuses on conflicts of interest, due process, ethics concerns, the Political Reform Act, Government Code Section 1090, and that will be given by the interim city attorney, Scott Howard, at the date and time mentioned.
And that is March 19th, 2 to 5, did you say?
3 to 5.
3 to 5.
3 to
It's a
5.
2-hour training.
And that is not available online because part of the ethics training requires direct interaction with the other participants. So
Okay.
that's a training not available online.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think we were told that it was, so
So,
thank you for that clarification.
so if there are no objections to moving the commission meeting from the 9th to the 23rd of April, do we have a motion to do that?
I'll move that we cancel our regular meeting and schedule a special meeting for the 23rd of April.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call. Commissioner Boggs?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes?
Chair McCready, yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Basaccia?
Yes.
Commissioner Akins?
Yes.
It is so moved. We will meet on the 23rd of April for the next Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Thank you.
Chair McCready?
Commissioner
I would
Hill?
like to ask one thing, and Commissioner Walker asked me about this before we started the meeting tonight, and we were supposed to, and I didn't see this, we were supposed to register for the meeting, for the workshop on the 9th, and I didn't do that. I really do want to attend this thing.
We can certainly accommodate you.
Okay.
So if you would be kind enough, because I have a lot of things on my mind at the moment, if you'd be kind enough either to give me a phone call in the morning or send me a quick email, and Sherry will be glad to get you registered tomorrow.
I'll email you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
I'll do the same, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, anyone who has not registered and would like to do so, if you could just contact me tomorrow, I'd be glad to get that taken care of for you.
One other follow-up question on that. If there are materials available at that, is there a chance of getting an extra copy of that since I won't be
Of
able to
course,
attend?
we'll make sure that you get one.
Great, thank you very much.
So, one thing that we do need to accomplish tonight is to appoint an ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing the landmarking fees and historic district guidelines. Am I missing?
I believe one of them was to look at the notification.
So like, I'm going to ask Commissioner Walker to give a quick rundown on
Yeah, well,
what this.
last meeting, we had a vote to initiate a committee, subcommittee, to look at certain issues regarding the Historic Preservation Code, and either to affirm what we already have or to clarify, sit down with the city attorney, with possibly our city council liaison, and 3 members of our commission, and try to go through, but not try to do the whole thing, but just pick one at a time or a couple at a time of these areas. And it seemed to me that one of the pressing ones was the notification of a landmark owner. Another one that was important was the fees. And then we just wanted to kind of clarify the nomination procedure, not necessarily to change the law, but just to clarify that. And then Terry had 1 or 2 that he was interested in having looked at.
One of the things that came up on Tuesday night was the fact that we had the opportunity to address Commissioner Walker and myself had the chance to address the commission, and we were, I specifically was wondrous about why our commission, in relationship to the disposition of the wall that was created at 1001 Foothill, why we were not included in the loop. And it sounds like you're trying to address this business about including everybody in the right spot when you talked about the timetable for Twice Told Tales. And I would like to see us have, as part of this, in pursuant with the provisions of the code and our code, our historic agreement code, to make sure that we had review process. And in the case of the wall, we did not. And so I pressed that upon the commission, and there was a great deal of discussion that went on with the council. And Mr. Powers thought that the creation of this subcommittee would be something that we didn't need to have on this agenda, but it could be created by the chair developing an ad hoc committee to look into these situations. And that would not require the item to be agendized. And so I think that would be one thing that I would really like to see as part of this subcommittee, to examine the process of doing business.
I think if I could clarify that, it was on the issue of the wall at the house.
That's
It was
right.
the HPC that brought up the issue and wanted it looked into and wanted this provision enforced. But then the case got closed without even letting us know or have any opportunity to comment on it. So that may be what you're referring to.
I am.
And I would caution any further commissioners not to speak on that particular issue, noting that it's not on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
But certainly staff is aware of the issue, and we'll be looking into it.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So, are there members of the commission who would be interested in serving on the ad hoc committee to study these issues? The process of nominations for a landmark, proposed changes to the fee schedule, and let's say, the travel of information between commission and council on compliance. I think Commissioner Walker has expressed an interest. Is Commissioner Hill? Is there a third? I will be the third.
What was the first one you mentioned?
I think it was nominations, proposed changes to the fee schedule, and
Oh.
the travel between the commission and council on compliance issues with landmarks. I think I
Well.
said nominations.
So do you need another one, or do you have three now?
I need another one.
I'll do it.
Commissioner Boggs. So I would be appointing Commissioner Boggs, Commissioner Hill, and Commissioner Walker to this ad hoc committee. Can they prepare their own schedule? Do we need to set that out here?
No, the ad hoc committee can set their own schedule, and an ad hoc committee of less than quorum, three, of course, because it's an ad hoc committee created for the specific purpose for a short period of time, say the next 6 months, is not subject to the Brown Act,
Okay.
and thus can meet, given its own schedule.
And can we have our council would you be willing to be on that? And
The trick with that is that an ad hoc committee can only be composed of members of
The
the
commission.
body setting it up.
That's correct.
Oh, they-
If we add a council member, then it turns it into a standing committee, which requires then full Brown Act compliance.
But council does have awareness of this and has endorsed it, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
and of course, the recommendations that come out of the ad hoc committee would be brought to the full commission for
Right.
review. And that would include a discussion with the council liaison, and then, of course, go to the full council.
But would that be something we would get either of you to come to be
Staff
part
can
of?
staff an ad hoc committee. We wouldn't sit as a member of the committee, we would advise the committee.
Okay. But it's- okay.
I had one question about the membership of this. You said three.
Yeah, that's correct.
And is our chairman a member of our committee by default?
No, he'd have to be, as I understand it now, it is yourself and Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Boggs, just those three. Not the chair as well, because that'd be four.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay,
I will be available should that become necessary if
okay.
one of the other commissioners can't attend.
And any meeting with the four would, of course, have to, that would be quorum, and that would have to be agendized as a regular or special meeting with the Hill. With the full commission.
Got you.
You know, when we did our Sites of Merit ad hoc committee, we had even people from the community on the committee. So I'm wondering why we couldn't have a city council person.
I wasn't here when that committee was formed, and it may be the case that my advice is different than the previous attorney.
Okay.
But I do not advise having anyone on the ad hoc committee that is not a member of the commission.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 3, planning report. Director Gould?
Some of what you just talked about, is gonna kind of fall under that planning report, because the ad hoc committee really is sort of a subsection of planning, and since we didn't specifically agendize that for this evening, we wanted to categorize it under that. At this point, we don't have any projects that are gonna move forward to HPC. No one over the last few months has submitted anything that would require a work permit. So this is actually an ideal time for your commission to take up some of these items that have been kind of lingering because you've had other work to do. So should something come in with a work permit, obviously you would all be notified immediately. But at this time, there isn't anything.
Thank you.
Good night.
Commissioner Walker?
Can you give us a summary of what happened at the council meeting with the 1001? Did they reopen that case? Was that the, what I understood?
I don't think,
A quick summary would certainly be appropriate, but because I would caution the commissioners to simply receive information.
Councilwoman Blatz, welcome.
Hi. That's
clap.
fine. That's okay.
Pardon me. You
Yes.
don't look anything alike.
No, we don't. It's been reopened.
The commission may not have heard the councilwoman. The matter has been reopened.
Okay, thank you. Museum representative, Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner McCready. We would be remiss if we did not heartily plug our upcoming March 22nd Town Talk because Commissioner Bisaccia will be on the panel. It is called Tales and Trails, the behind-the-scenes look at Ojai's backcountry. It will be moderated by Perry Van Houten of the Ojai Valley News, and Commissioner Bisaccia has kindly agreed to join us. Additionally, we are the proud...
When is that?
March 22nd, it's a week from Sunday, 4:30 to 6 at the museum. We are also at the museum are the proud recipients of the Spirit of the Ojai Valley Award from the Chamber of Commerce. And would like to say that our current exhibit, Fine Portraits, Fine People, is up and through March 29th. So if you haven't seen it, we encourage you to do that. The next show would be the Ojai Studio Artists, the annual show, which begins April 18th. We are seeking volunteers and docents if anyone would be interested in applying. And along that line, we are receiving applications through March 20th for the executive director job. Anyone interested can go to the museum website to read the job description and how to apply.
Thank you. I skipped over commissioner comments, so I'll open that to commissioners. Commissioner Walker,
I would
please.
just like to point out that Mark Lewis and I are going up to the Rotary Club tomorrow to talk to them about Thornton Wilder when he was a student at Thatcher School, and kind of contrast his life at Thatcher with Helen Baker Reynolds, who grew up in what's now the Porch Gallery at the turn of the century. And it's a remarkable contrast and a remarkable story about Ojai after the turn of the century. But I was Googling Helen Baker Reynolds' name, and I thought it might be of interest to everyone on this commission that after she left Ojai to attend college and at Mills College, she moved to the Bay Area, but she got involved in preservation issues. She was on the Roadside Council, that was one of the first lobbying groups in California back in the 40s, and she co-founded the Planning and Conservation League, which was responsible for putting CEQA into effect and also putting in the coastal laws and many other landmark environmental programs. She was responsible for getting together. And when the freeway was coming to Ojai, the locals knew about her and her weight that she carried in Sacramento and called upon her to help with the fight against the freeway, which she did. She even came to Ojai and spoke, and then she worked her magic, whatever it was, back of the scenes up in Sacramento and got the freeway stopped or helped to get the freeway stopped. Kind of an interesting story.
Thank you.
What's her name again?
Helen Baker Reynolds.
Okay. I wanted to ask Commissioner Walker, would you find it at all appropriate to say anything about this Star Camp?
Well, it's not
landmarking?
in our purview as the city, but I've
No.
always been interested in these two buildings in Miners Oaks that were the bathhouses for the first Krishnamurti talks in 1928 and 1929. They had these camps where people came from all over the world. They camped out in the field there with the Land Conservancy. Now has part of that property next to Miners Oaks School. The Krishnamurti Foundation has the field near Crotona on the other side, but this little Besant Road that goes down has these buildings. One has been converted into a house and the other a little apartment building, but they still retain a lot of the character. And I talked to the gentleman who just recently bought them, and he's very interested in landmarking them through the county. And I've been in touch with Brian Stark with the Land Conservancy and also the Krishnamurti Foundation, and they're wanting to sit down and form kind of an interpretive vision for that area that people who hike on the trails for the Land Conservancy will be able to learn the story of those events that happened back in the 20s that really had a huge impact on Miners Oaks and on Ojai. There was only 5 families that lived in Miners Oaks before those camps, and they invited, the Theosophists invited people from all over the world to move there, and the population of Miners Oaks just went up to 250 families living there within a couple of years, and built from there. And I think probably if the truth were known, maybe 10 or 15% of the people who live in Ojai now are descended from people that came to Ojai as a result of those talks and future talks that went on in that area.
Also, I mean, this photo may be in other places, but I sort of got onto this whole thing because I was eating in Jim and Rob's grill over here, and they have all these historic photos on the walls. And one of them is of this star camp in these 2 buildings. And I asked him if I could take a picture of it. I took it off the wall, took a picture, and put it on Facebook. And I'm not sure if this got the ball rolling in some
Yeah,
fashion,
definitely
but
did.
I guess it did, didn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I would like to add, I know I believe Commissioner Akins, we have postcards of those 2 buildings out there. So if you're interested in using those, at least for my sake, I can't speak for Commissioner Akins, but
Well, those might be interesting to use somewhere at some point in some signage or
I haven't looked
interpretive
I
signage.
haven't looked at the back of the one I have. Sometimes there's a interesting message that's on it, but they're not. I wondered for a long, long time just what the star camps were. I had the card easily 10 years before I found out what it was.
Thank you. With that, I would like to turn
Wait
the
a
floor.
minute.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Bob.
I always have something to say. A few months ago, I had to change my phone number, so I came to the city and talked to Kathleen about giving her my new phone numbers. And she said the directory of the commissioners, that one-page sheet with the information about us, needed to be upgraded, and she would do that and have it for us for the next meeting. And I don't know what happened. We haven't gotten it yet. And then the other thing is, usually every year, we take a picture of the 7 commissioners, and we haven't done that this year.
Thank you, Commissioner Boggs. We'll
all.
chase those 2 items for you.
Chair, if I may, I'll be happy to address your concern, Commissioner Boggs, if you'd like to let me know, remind me of that tomorrow. I'll be glad to send out an updated roster with all the members of the commissioners and their contact information.
We'll also print it out so we can put it in our binder.
Of course, I'd be happy to
Thank
do
you.
that for you.
Thank you,
And if you'd
Director
like a
Pope.
picture of the 7 commissioners, we're happy to accommodate you as well. So after, at your next meeting, maybe that would be a good opportunity to do that prior to the meeting.
Thank you.
Can I just,
Commissioner Walker?
one more thing, I'm sorry. I know that there's been a group of people that have been very eager to have Ojai's cultural resources recognized and have something put into the city code regarding those. And I just would hope that our commission, because we are the historic preservation and cultural resources are definitely a part of the history, that as we move through the months ahead, that we could offer some support for that effort.
You're talking about the meeting at Carroll's?
No, I'm talking about cultural resources.
Okay,
and,
different one.
Yeah, the archaeological and cultural resources.
Okay.
Mr. Summers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To speak to Mr. Walker's point, that is on the council's radar, and our office is currently putting together a comprehensive survey of local, state, and federal laws that require protection of cultural and tribal resources. That'll be available for review next week or so, and then the council has it on their agenda, I believe, for April 14th, to look at that issue and kind of see what the next steps are. So that's certainly both on the radar and on the present work plan.
Thank you. Now I will turn the floor over to Councilwoman Clappin. My apologies for misidentifying you
Don't worry
earlier.
about it. There's two future agenda items that you'll probably be interested in. One is we're updating our tree ordinance. We're strengthening it as far as how when you need a permit, and also going to also include in it guidelines for not over pruning, particularly oak trees. The other future agenda item, and I think it's in the very near future, is a potential moratorium on fences and walls in the Arbolada and Foothill area. And the most notable thing at the last council meeting was council voted 4-0. Paul Blatz wasn't present, to in 90 days start enforcing vacation rental. It's hard to explain because it isn't exactly an ordinance against them, but by the fact that it's not stated as an allowable use in the city limits, therefore makes them illegal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to be starting to enforce that in 90 days. The the vacation rental focus group is meeting. We've met twice, and we're going to be meeting again on the 23rd. And it's a focus group made up of people from real estate, rental, people that rent apartments, a young gentleman who grew up in town that has lived here his whole life, another citizen at large, a couple of vacation rental operators, and two other people who are pretty much people at large. We tried to reach out to the community and get a whole broad base of people. The focus group is purely for feedback. It's not to establish policy. We won't even be coming forward with a suggested policy. We're going to come forward with a report about what the focus group comes up with as far as their sentiments about vacation rentals, whether they should be allowed, whether they shouldn't, if they are allowed, what they feel should or shouldn't be the requirements of the vacation rentals.
I have a question in regard to that. Is there going to be any representation from the hotel owners?
Yes, I apologize.
Because
Yes.
they have a big stake in it because they're paying
Yes,
their
I'm glad
taxes.
you mentioned that. Kathy Clough with the Oaks is also on this board.
Okay.
Yeah, or the focus group. Because you're right, that's a really important element. Any questions?
Is she the only one from the hotel community?
We reached out to the hotel community, and she was the only one that was able to
Because
participate.
aren't they kind of a specialty hotel? I mean, they're not a normal hotel in a way.
They pay a bed tax.
No, I know, but my point is
She's actually come forward. I approached Kathy Hartley. She was too busy.
oh,
Jeff Wells also declined.
interesting.
Yeah, but Kathy Clough really has her ear to the ground with all hoteliers, so she's really
Oh,
a good
good.
spokesperson for them. One of the most interesting things she mentioned that hotels are feeling from vacation rentals is they're having a hard time finding employees because vacation rentals are scooping up that pool of employees.
That's interesting.
Uh-huh.
I know we're not the only community dealing with this, so I wish you luck with that effort.
You know, it's an interesting subject because since I've gotten involved with it, I've really been paying attention. And there's been lawsuits in New York and San Francisco against VRBO and Airbnb. There's been articles all over the world about the impact that these Airbnb and Vrbo are having on communities, and it's really a hot topic right now. Even the League of California Cities is having a lot of discussion about it as well.
Commissioner Walker?
Is there any way a study could be done to see if there's an effect on the rental costs for the average person who lives here, who just wants to rent a house for their family? It stands to reason that it would contribute to the increase in rental costs, but
Well, you know, just as anecdotal information, I've read that it is having an impact on rental because a vacation rental yields much more money. And the other thing, Dale Hansen came forward at the council meeting, and she has a lot to do with rentals here in town. And she said that there's just becoming fewer and fewer available to people because they're being converted to vacation rentals. So it's a really extremely important question about our future and what we want to be as a community. So I really encourage people to get involved with this and come forward, because whatever policy is made is what our future is going to be. And I personally don't want people coming up later saying, you know, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Because now's the time to start stepping forward with this. We'll be having a public workshop about it as well. Probably after this meeting, we may have one more focus group meeting, and then after that, because we're going to come back in 90 days with our conclusions, and we'll probably have, before that 90 days, a workshop for the community as well. And that's going to be highly publicized, and it's really important people show up. So.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Mr. Summers?
Just a little point to add on this. A couple of cities that I'm aware of have gone through a similar process with a full stakeholder discussion and community discussion, and have come up with a couple of different varieties of ordinances that permit but heavily regulate these type of vacation rentals. And so that's certainly something that our office can help out with as well. Once there's a consensus as to what the goal is, then.
Yeah, the path that we want to take.
Exactly.
The path that we take will be probably chosen after the workshop.
Yeah.
Then it will come before council and with a full report and staff report. And we're also compiling a spreadsheet of like communities and what their policies are. That's one of the difficult things. You really can't compare the regulations that came out of San Francisco or New York City or Paris or anywhere to a city like Ojai. You can't even compare us to a community that was designed as a recreational community, i.e. Mammoth, with skiing or such. We're trying to find communities that are really bedroom communities that have been highly desirable areas to live, which is Ojai. Trying to find other communities like that to compare what they've done, because it's a very different animal, I think, than a large city or a community that was designed for transients, like a.
There's one thing I thought about is during the recession, it probably enabled quite a few landowners or property owners to hold on to their property. As they started going underwater, you know, that they could make their mortgage by renting it out. But now that the recession is over, then it kind of changes the picture. So.
Yeah, it's a touchy one, boy. It's not going to be fun. I'm not looking forward to a lot of the decision making. It's going to be a hard one to sit there and make that decision, because it has to become something. I've learned is that policy should not be driven by financial circumstance of individuals. The policy needs to be driven by what's best for a community. And so it's going to be very hard when people come forward with those stories, but the reality is our decision has to be made. I feel my decision has to be made on what's best for the community as a whole, whether this is a good idea for the community or not. And that's what's going to be really good about the focus group and the workshop as well, to get feedback from the rest of the residents on what they feel their vision is of our community into the future. So it's going to be interesting. Tough battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're smart to get out ahead of it.
We're actually not ahead. We're not, interestingly enough. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
If there are no other commissioner comments or questions, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Councilman Clark, I wondered if maybe further that Petaluma just went through and did quite comprehensive allow them in certain locations. And part of their focus was on right. Petaluma was a lot bigger about the houses, but in terms of community character, they're similar.
Yes, they are.
They're on buildings, vacation place like
That's
Mammoth,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and any of those, that's exactly what we need, is to have these comparisons made. But the first thing we have to do is like the community, they want it all.
And that's one
Where
where.
they want it, they want them all, they want a phenomenon or two, they want apartment buildings to be allowed.
And that's the one that was on premise. In yours, short-term basis.
Yeah.
But there's been someone that's gone and rendered same thing with LA. in San Francisco, you see a
There
lot.
was an article LA Times about renting, buying home apartment.
Right, and there was one that just was out in a real estate blog called Curb. It did an analysis of how Airbnb revenues have impacted rents.
Could you send that to me?
Yeah.
That would be
Give your
very
email
helpful.
address. Card, I have it in my bag right here. And they found that in the city of LA, which is what they focused on, they found that 80% of the revenue generated by Airbnb was in just 10 neighborhoods across the entire city of LA. And then the percent of the units. I guess we searched for renting, and then we found that the renting versus
We're just going down to seven.
yeah, I mean, it's one where
Grandsons,
there's a lot of different some folks, right, a lot of folks, other communities have said, you know, we find some value in being able to have a cheaper rent for families but then, exactly. And then you end up in a situation where
it would be nice to have that before we start.
well, you end up with people buying passionately purchases of 6 or 7 properties, and then they set them up as even now you see there's a certain segment of property that's being marketed, not to the homeowner, but is being marketed to a future Airbnb. And yeah, and they're pointing out, oh, it's, you know, instead of what it's got these features, other people it's the right size, the right location. Yeah, well, right, because we have a rental short on 3 days. Well, and the other thing about it is, from a investment perspective, they never pay you a fee. It's like the same thing with the same kind of classic story. They didn't get the color on the drugs or the liquor running or the guns. They got them on the tax auction. They should know to at least pay the taxes.
That's right, that's right.
Pretty good.
Yes, we're
Well,
good.
that's, okay, I know where that
I'm
is.
telling you guys.
I know.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Smartphone, so.
Got it.
Anyway.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Did they come because of Christian Murder?
I'm not positive that
There was a whole bunch of Finnish people.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew or Matt.
Matt.
All right. Thank you.
Matthew written, but Matt informally.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm gonna look for those buildings.
Oh, I have to wait for those
Or
notes.
near the ranch house.
Oh, yeah, the two?
Matt, I just want to say.
Craig's wife did a,
Oh, thank you.
did kind of an estate sale at one of them, so
Glad
I
you
walked all through the house.
Is it behind the ranch house?
There,
Oh, yeah, was that that house?
yeah, instead of,
Take care.
right before the ranch house, you make a left and go down.
Okay.
Yeah, you go down Bessemer Road and when it makes that 90-degree turn,
Yeah,
there's
they go
another
up.
little road that goes off to the left.
I'm gonna
which is
go
also
over there.
in Bessemer. And the first house is this big thing that was added later, but then the second and third were these buildings.
Oh, they're-
Real low.
They are
Low
squat. They look kind of like bomb shelters or
I know
outhouses.
what
They
they
are
are.
kind of an eastern.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that they're historic, you know, that they're in these photos.
I know which ones you're talking
Well,
about.
one of them's a dormitory for the Oak Grove.
That's
Right,
right,
that's
that's
right
right.
across the street. But what was interesting is when they built the original Happy Valley School, which was down there, they incorporated those buildings into the Happy Valley School. And one was their kitchen and dining area, and the other one was the boys' dormitory. And then when they moved Happy Valley down, but they left these two.
There's
There's
just-
actually a third one. It's across Bessie Road, but it's been so badly remodeled that you never recognize it.
Which pictures do you have?
I can't remember.
I have the one that shows.
In fact, I've got to find out whether I got the Foothills Hotel bungalows.
Oh, I saw somebody posted those on Facebook.
Yeah, they posted on Facebook because they ripped them
Is
off. on
this
eBay.
after it became,
They were yours.
is this after it became Camp Rama, or?
No, David's like, I don't think I've ever seen those before. I thought it said 517.
On the property of Foothills Hotel.
Brian, we had a nice night with Cynthia.
And he had.
Oh, Cindy Concrete is in
Yeah,
our
I'm
currently.
Oh, I had one of those. We should
Yeah,
ask David what happened to them.
we had dinner at her house on last Sunday night,
Oh, they got.
and it really looks nice.
Oh, nope, still 1 hour and 6 minutes.
Time for me to go home and bed?
Yeah, you try to snake my geese night that I've got waiting and
Well, I decided not to mention
David said he'd never seen the
in
bungalows.
public and on TV that other cities are now paying their commissioners a stipend.
Oh.
Even Fillmore, that was almost in bankruptcy, they're paying
I
their
have a
commissioners.
car that looks like that.
Yeah.
So, and
what is
the
that?
city
But
has
these
the money,
two
they
are
can reduce the
Foothills
council
Hotel
pay and
bungalows
give it
is
to
what
the
it says.
commissioners.
You know, I was talking to,
Is that a pergola?
I was talking to architectural historian from San Juan.
So, we'll see.
And he told me that there's only 3 historic preservation commissions in Ventura County. There's ours in Ojai,
The county.
the whole county, there's the county, there's ours, and there's one other one somewhere.
Is it-
I don't think Santa Paula has one.
No, he
Is it
says,
Newberry Park or Thousand Oaks?
maybe, but he says there's very rare to have a city have one, so he's acting like we should
Wait a
consider
minute, I
ourselves.
thought it was a state law that we had that.
No, because remember, we didn't have one for years, and the county did it for a while.
Yeah, right.
The culture is story.
Interesting, I never knew that.
He said there's only like 1 or 2 other besides the
Well,
county.
we've come a long way.
Super special.
Yeah.
We not only have someone from the city, which we never had in the beginning, now we have a lawyer.
Yeah, it has to be
We've always had a-
because of the city manager. I guess he's the
Well,
gatekeeper, the city
and
manager
what,
is for all.
didn't he say something about litigation,
Yes.
protecting
Well,
the city from litigation?
Yeah, I think after the death lounge, they wanted to guard the gates.
The timing was-
The infidels are crowding in here.
That would been back up to look.
I have.
Last pictures we saw were just the fake wall.
Yeah, I haven't been up. They are dead to me.
I don't mention them, but I do say things like, it only takes 3 weeks to get a permit, but I don't
Yeah,
mention the
right.
death lounge. I think the TV camera's off.
I hope
So
so.
the computer's closed, so.
I don't see any lights on, so.
No, I know.
Mr. Roney wasn't here.
Oh, he emailed me, he had school administrative stuff to do, so I knew he wasn't gonna be there, I should have said so on record.
Jack Fay, we've done oral histories, and we've done 25 or so. And so he wanted a copy, and so I usually put it on a memory stick, and I take it and give it to him on a memory stick, right? He has a Mac.
There he is up there.
Yeah, and so,
Nice and slow.
so I got Roger Conrad
Yeah.
from the museum to go up with me, because I'm not a Mac guy. No, the system is too old.
Can we even take your memory stick?
When did the memory stick.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So then I said, okay, I'll burn you DVDs. Forever remember how to burn DVDs. Took it out there. He has a DVD, VCA, or VHS player, and then he has an old original DDR from probably Time Warner. And then he has the TV, and he has the DDR hooked up with the 3 colors going into the TV with the 3.
Yeah.
And there's no HDMI on the
Right,
VHS VCR player. I'm like, so it's like the 6th time I've been back there for that.
So today I took my wife's laptop and we sat down and watched two of them.
They were just gonna buy you a TV.
A DVD player for his 90th birthday. But he's like, you know, we're watching it, he's just enraptured with this, because we did it 2 years ago. And he's like, oh my gosh, I never knew you could even do this. This is phenomenal, you know, sitting there watching it.
Police on the city council and the garden club had the tree ordinance, and Rosemary Rhodey went personally to him, and he says, you're the first person that ever came to me.
Oh, terrific.
Excellent, man, that was fast.
So you wanna come yourself?
No, you know what, you can just email me the link. I gave a copy to the city attorney.
Oh, good.
So he can take a look at it.
So anyway, the city council didn't care
If you
about
let me
tree
know if
ordinance.
there's some issues or
But
problems.
Jack
we'll
Fay
come up
did,
with it.
and he met, and he said, Rosemary, you're the first
I know
person
that
that's ever
the relationship between staff and the
They
agency
got
has not
television
always been good in the
station,
past.
Channel
But
4,
I'm
and come
endeavoring
on
to
and
change
do a
that.
story
I will
on
as
it.
well.
And so the council passed the first tree
Take care.
ordinance.
Fire
and
one.
the
Thanks.
Oh, really? Wow.
Garden club.
Yeah, he's fabulous to talk to.
Oh, are you a member of the garden?
They think
I
he went
was,
over
I'm not at the
the,
moment, but I gave him a
tree
historical
committee?
talk last month.
I'm on
About
that
an
tree
hour.
committee, but
These women know nothing about their history.
I would
We had
gladly
neon
give
signs
up
because
my
the garden
position
club
on
wouldn't
that
let us.
committee
Well, look at this. I found
to
this. Look at
Rick,
it. I was
because he
talking about
really
the Planning
is
and Conservation League.
tuned
Found that This is an
into
old document that talks about the
botany,
founders.
biology, and so on. His dad was a
And
biology
look through one of
teacher
their board
at
members
Thatcher,
is,
and so
Boulevard.
and a good friend of mine, but,
And then look at the members, the people who are affiliated.
He's so overloaded.
One of them is the Ojai
Yeah,
Valley
he barely-
Garden Club. So they
See
were
here.
active.
Oh,
But well,
did they ever, and
well,
yeah, he might like to do that.
Yeah,
Because there was,
the road up to Crotona.
it sounded like there was gonna be something coming down the line,
On the left,
with the
across
city
on
wanting
that
to
corner lot
update
was the great
the
line
tree
in the gas
ordinance,
station.
you know,
Oh,
to
yeah,
And
yeah.
it burned
put
down.
stiffer
And it was
regulations
left there
in
for
about,
years, terrible sign.
trimming
Connie
trees and
Wash,
so
you know
on.
that name?
Yeah?
All right, she was in the
I've
garden
never
club.
heard that,
And she went to
overturning.
Mr. Berger, this was after the
Yeah,
war.
it could
At the Ojai
happen.
Valley Inn, and
To
she
certain-
said, that's a terrible
And-
mess
and
out there.
also
People aren't
is
gonna come to your hotel
The
when
business
this is out,
of,
because
not
it's
only
right next
trimming,
to it.
but where you
So the
trim.
owners gave the
Because there's
garden
certain
club
plants that
permission
have,
to clean it
a
out.
terminal,
So
in
Connie
other
went
words,
to
they
Don
start,
Berger, he
and
provided
the most
all the
important
wind
part
and
is
the
the tip
trucks
of
and
it.
stuff, and
The
they
top,
took the gas
you cut
pumps and
that,
everything
It
away.
turns into a
And
lollipop,
so, in order to
this
give the
is bush.
speech, I had to look up
And
history.
some plants
And
can't
here's a picture of
stand
Connie
that.
Washington
It
truck
ruins
with
them.
all this
Yeah.
And
junk
there's a lot
being
of,
thrown on the truck.
a lot of people that
And
don't
she's
know.
there, you know, like, what if it's just a publicity picture, you know, but still, that's what she did.
I remember her as a kid, she was the grand dame
Oh,
of
yeah.
the tea tent at the tennis tournament. It
Who is that?
Connie Wash.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
know, her parents, one was a Rogers,
Eaton
Rogers silverware, and one was a Gorham, and Gorham married Rogers, so they had all this silverware, and I think that's where the tea pot and all that fancy.
They came from them.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
interesting.
Yeah, I remember her.
The garden club really did so much, people don't realize how active they were.
And yeah, and work, they're not as active anymore.
No, what they do now, they don't garden, they give money to anybody
Yeah.
that needs a tree or plants or something. The
Yeah, I think they
Raptor,
gave some money, didn't they, for the museums?
Yeah,
She mentioned
yes.
that.
and the Raptor Center, they needed trees for shade for the birds, so they gave them money.
Uh-huh.
And they were real strong in stopping the freeway,
Yeah,
and you don't see billboards coming into Ojai, thank you Garden Club.
I think they may have planted all those trees along Ojai Avenue in
Oh,
front
they
of the
did.
Tillamook
Yeah.
Junior High, you know, up
Yeah.
the whole.
So-
Yeah.
Okay, that was started.
Can the tree committee, like, put pressure on, one of the things that bugs me about downtown is along the street in front of Westridge Market, B of A, and Carroll's, there's not one tree.
There's palm trees.
I mean, it would be nice if we had
more
Wouldn't that be
trees.
nice?
sycamores along there.
I-
I mean, if the mob shop can put in that kind of landscape, why can't those trees?
Well, the owners of Westridge are very sympathetic to trying to do the right thing for Ojai now, since they took over the Bayless Market.
Well, it'd be nice to have some street trees.
Yeah, man, there
You know
is
what?
part of the planning commission, they have a street committee, and that governs all the plantings of right-of-ways along the city streets of Ojai. And that includes even planting trees in the middle of the street, if they thought that was the way to
Well, all
go.
they have to do is make up a project, go to the garden club and ask for
Well,
money.
this is the city doing it. During
Garden club is giving the city money for trees in Libby Park and in
Yeah.
Cove.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's also a tree committee now, or a tree,
Well, I don't know what happened to it. Terry and I used to go to the meetings and they don't have them.
Yeah, no, what we did, that was to create an urban forest. And we went through, where we went out and measured trees.
yeah, I was on the art commission.
Jane-
Yeah.
Tree
Jane-
thing.
It was a heritage tree list.
Right.
And we did that, and if there was any additional aspects to this heritage tree list, we could nominate trees to be put on that list. And that would have to go through the tree committee, and that, the tree committee is a subset of our commission and the planning commission. And Kathy Nolan is the acting member on the planning commission, and she's also on this tree committee, so.
Do you know where the tallest tree in Ojai is?
We went looking for it.
In
Oh, it
back
would-
of what used to be Clausen's Funeral Home.
No, that's a shrimp compared to some of the other ones we found.
From across the street, I'm looking over there, and there's two trees there,
I know.
and they just really soar up into the
We-
sky.
They're small compared to some of the other oaks that we did.
We know one's a pine tree, and I'm not sure if the other's an oak or not, or a redwood, I don't know.
Well,
At the Baptist church,
There
were
are-
beautiful
there's a-
ones.
On the heritage trees list, there's a number of them up on that,
Yeah, the
church
Baptist-
grounds.
Quite a few at the Baptist.
that's part of a grove up there.
Sorry, Darwin, I think I talked too much, so just tell me not to.
No,
No, it was-
no. I had thank you for everything you did this month. I moved this month.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I had a molar removed this month. I don't know which was worse, the move or the molar.
Well, you know what I think we should do, though, is because the first council meeting of the month, is maybe we should set up a schedule where
Yeah.
we alternate,
Yeah.
and have the different. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
I was thinking, here's a problem with, you know, we need to get all landmarks going, is what we gotta do. Yeah, I was thinking like that old library, the National Library.
We tried before.
So, like,